Okay, we're going to get started here. And before I introduce the panelists here, I just want to say that this is probably my favorite topic and the most blunt topic, I think, for Cannes. We are at the Festival of Creativity. It is all about creative effectiveness, but a lot of people are just talking about AI and the data. And I love that we're talking about how do we marry the creative and the data to make better decisions? Because after all, we are at the Festival of Creativity. And congratulations, MasterCard won last night. So Tina Allen, I'll start with Tina Allen won for MasterCard won a Lion. So again, let's celebrate creativity and how it was obviously very effective. So this is going to be a great conversation. So I have Daniel Binns, who's the global CEO of Elmwood Brand Consulting. I have Tina Allen, the global chief solutions architect at McCann. And I have Roni Sebastian, global executive creative director at Monks, that I think works on the Google account most likely, right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so I actually want to start this panel that is, a creative director, a data scientist, and an AI agent walk into a bar. I don't go down the line, but this one I will. What drink are you ordering?
I'm definitely ordering a White Russian.
Oh, okay. Can you say why?
Because no, I don't really know why.
Okay.
It's like it just came into my head, so I guess it's
That's a
the
good
agent.
thing.
The agent told me that's what I
That's
should
very
drink.
creative. How about you?
I do shots of tequila. I think that'll get everyone really happy really quick.
Not to be cliche, but Aperol Spritz.
Oh,
I
in
discovered
France.
it my first time here 5 years ago and haven't stopped
Never
drinking
looked
them
back.
since.
It's a very good substitute for rosé, everyone, and you will be sick of
Indeed.
rosé by tomorrow for any new people. I'm gonna have a Harvey Wallbanger just because it's fun. Okay, so I'd like to start out with this as sort of the partnership and how you guys can answer it however you guys want to answer it, like down the line. I do have specific questions for you guys, but how has the creative team and the data team changed over the last few years and how you work together? Because a lot of times those are siloed departments and they really need to work together, both upper funnel and lower funnel. So I'd love to just have you some feedback of just over the last 2 years, how have you changed your teams? How have you built your relationship and actually brought creative into that using data as your friend, I'll put it that way, versus as a enemy or enemy to creativity?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I mean, I think testament to our data friends, because I think they have changed dramatically in terms of. Oh, hang on, you lost your page.
Yeah, I lost.
Because I think they've changed dramatically in terms of the way in which they want to contribute to the creative conversation, and they show up differently from what they probably did 5-10 years ago. So I think now you do when it was like oil and water when you get a data person and a creative person in a room together. They were like talking different languages. They were just sort of it was a geek and somebody who was all about big ideas, and they just couldn't find common ground. And I now find that data people are so rich on insight, and creative people, if they're worth their salt, are equally incredibly rich on insight. They're looking for that. They're desperately searching for something to create that hook to make their work better. We all know that the world has become so much about driving effectiveness. Every creative person knows that. If you're going to win an award at Cannes, it's got to be incredibly effective. It can't just be a pretty picture. So I think they're eager to get that out of their insights partners. So I think they work much more as a group and as a partnership than they ever did, 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, there's a great billboard out here. I'm not going to get it right, but it says something about go back with impress the judges and your CFO when you get home. And I think that's another piece is like you can win all the awards in the world, but your CFO wants to know, did it work? And did you bring in outcomes and sales? So I think that marrying the CMO, the CFO, and also the data scientist is integral in creative effectiveness. Especially, does anybody else want to answer how their teams have changed?
Yeah, I think first off, we have to accept as creatives in this industry that we aren't creating fine art for our own satisfaction, but ultimately just trying to drive business results, right? So now with data being much more accessible and getting 2 good data points and insights off of it being so much more accelerated, it just makes us that much more accountable. And that accountability drives more of a partnership because the relationship is that much more valuable with the data scientist bringing insights, the strategist helping interpret the insights and guiding the creative. And we have just a much tighter feedback loop that can move much more quickly. So in some ways, that's forced us to adapt to the technology in terms of pace.
I'd say creative is not a department. So we're all part of the creative department. I'd say that's first. I'd say second, at McCann, we say a lot of times it's about magic and logic. And my best partners are my equals. They respect that. That's sort of what we're talking about. Like creative, we work together. We don't just come in and give you some insights, run away with the data, and then come back in and do an MMM, right? We sit throughout the entire journey. And I think that's some of the best work I'm seeing at the Palais right now. Like it has such sort of a connection of data and tech and simple human insights, but beautiful craft. And I think that's part of the magic. It's both.
Yeah, that's like the old tying the heart and the mind together. And I also just think like the data scientists on the teams and the research and insights are being held more accountable because in the end, you know, you have the creative and the CMOs that actually are on the hot seat for does it work? Does my media plus my creative work?
Yeah. You know what I say all the time? So what?
Yeah.
We got a great idea. So what?
So
What's
what?
it going to do?
And
So
then-
what?
And then now what?
And now what?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what great partnerships do. They push each other. But at
Exactly.
the end of the day, I think we are more accountable, measurable, right? For work that isn't invisible, but that actually drives impact, to your point.
Yeah, signals help, right? And so we just have many more signals, right? It's our responsibility, not just as creatives, but as brand partners and stewards to listen to everything, right? We need to decide what parts of it we hear, and the data and the people who can best interpret the data are just extremely helpful to that end.
Yeah, and I look to I've heard a lot of conversations about fear of AI, like and slop and all that. And I think it's real, but I think that by using the data to show what works and how we can test things, whether pre-test them or post-test them, and really learn and iterate quickly, is going to be super important. And again, I just think holding each other accountable for shared KPIs. You know, it was like we both have KPIs that is outcome, and so you help me look good, I help you look good. And how do you kind of work to drill through that mountain of data you have to what are my 5 things I need to do and to prioritize?
Yeah, I think on our best day, it would be like the data doesn't lie, right? So you're working with a creative, and I'm like, I got this, I got this, I got this. Creative's like, no, maybe. Can you go deeper in that? Okay, maybe. No, that's bad. So it's iterative too, and I think that's what you were speaking to. Like it's ongoing, and you're continually learning. But if that partnership doesn't happen throughout the whole cycle, I think that's a big miss.
Yeah, and I think as you say, I mean, we're all accountable to a single goal. So if you think about, we talk about, everyone's creating impact. You got to create impact. That's what you're trying to do for your client. What is the business outcome that they're looking to accomplish? And your role is to address that. And that sort of shared goal is really critical. I remember going to Red Bull Racing, the Formula One team. And if you asked anybody at Red Bull Racing, why are you here? They would say, to make the car go faster. I mean, literally, the team lady, why am I here? To make the car go faster. I make sure that everyone is well hydrated. I give them all the great nutrients so they can make the car go faster. So if everyone's got that shared goal,
Rowing the same direction.
That's how things get done.
Yeah, it reminds me like when I was at Hulu and I first got in and the acquisition and retention team were separate. And I was like, this doesn't work because you're bringing shitty people in so you can have higher numbers in acquisition. And then the retention people are like, what the fuck, this person left. So if you give them the shared goals of the acquisition people are, you're accountable for LTV, bringing in people that have the higher lifetime value and a lower CAC, but even you might spend more on that person because they might stay around for 12 months. So it's the shared goals I think is really important. And I think there's so many agencies, and you can probably speak to this, is like that are still siloed. And some brands have their media over here and their creative over here. How do you, if any of you, deal with that when you're in 2 separate places or you're not under the same, or not rowing in the same direction or even talking? Because it feels like, here's your media plan, which is they need to work in symbiotically.
Well, the first question is, do you know how to read it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think a core value is curiosity and collaboration. So first of all, if you think, I don't care who our media partner is, whether they're in our house, whatever, like you got to work together. That's the first part. And I think to get to those shared goals, you need more people who can translate media to creative. Because in the old world, like media would write the plan and hand it to creative. I think in the new world, creative is leading the plan. And that collaboration, I mean, you could speak to it more, is like when the best stuff happens.
It's both really. It's a virtuous cycle, right? So constant feedback loop. You know, when AI first got introduced into our ways of working, we would look at our macro processes and then break those down into micro processes and look at what we could innovate inside like minor workflows, right? So how we can accelerate the traditional ways of working with technology. That was year one or so, right? And after that, we get more into, this is a big phrase, but organizational design, right? And bringing people together and looking at the macro process now and how we can bring people closer to technology and vice versa, and also people from different perspectives and people from different disciplines to work. And we're all getting much more hybridized in our roles. So you're going to be a specialist in media. We're going to be a specialist in ideas and decision making when it comes to creative. But it's like we can kind of overlap some, right? And so that partnership is crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think enough people are talking about the implications to organizational structure because of AI. So, you think about the classic ways in which companies were organized. There was matrix, there was agile, there was, there's going to be a new dynamic to how companies are going to have to organize.
What's the name of it? What's it going to be?
I mean, a good friend of mine actually is writing his PhD on exactly this topic. So he talks about it all being about hit squads, that people are going to work in specialist teams that will be pieced together to go after one
funnel,
issue.
yeah.
They'll just go after one thing and they'll do that, and then they may retreat and then they'll be assigned to something else, but they're all going to be working together. So, and obviously AI enables that because everyone's working on some sort of shared platform. There is a great way that they can all be connected and collaborate and be curious together. So in some ways it can help, but it is going to require a rethink of how we structure the
Okay,
business.
so everybody heard it here. Agile out, matrix out, hit squad in. If that's what you said.
That's what I said.
That's what I also just want to just put a fine point too, is on the simplicity of like Todd Kaplan, over at Kraft now, but at Pepsi, he just simply says like, if you can have the best media plan in the world, but crap in, crap out. Like, and again, I don't think enough people celebrate that's why the media plan's not working, is because the creative is not either targeted correctly, it's not resonating correctly, and it can't have
It's just not good.
What?
Right? I mean, like, it's just not good.
Yeah.
Like, at McCann, we create a scale to be like, this is what great creative looks like. Sadly, in the world, the scale goes from 1 to 7. But in the 3 category of like, 2s and 3s, they're not noticed. So there's so much work out there that just isn't noticed or isn't seen or isn't great. And I think this is so important to be like, no, we have to do the best work on our biggest brands and all our brands all the time.
Right.
So, it is both back and forth, but I
Right.
think it's incumbent on us to keep that caliber of craft up and not waste.
It can be maddening as a creative just seeing the brands wanting scale over quality, right? And so now production isn't the bottleneck in the way that it used to be, right? For 20 years, the promise of digital media was hyper targeting, right? And with social, it got even more personalized. We can get to that level of targeting, and it was production that was really bringing up the rear. We didn't have enough might. That's where there was enough or too much friction to be able to deliver personalization at scale. Now we can, but just because a brand can create thousands of assets, it doesn't mean that they should, right? Because if they don't have great ideas or great insights driving ideas to begin with, then they're just creating like more versions of the same ideas that consumers didn't care about in the first place, right? So
Right.
upstream decision making is so much more important before we talk about like getting to good ideas and then figuring out how to take those ideas and give them more reach.
Yeah. No, you talking to me.
I was going to say, I mean, AI has risen the floor, and for anybody who's in a business like we're in, our job is to raise the ceiling. And I always say to people, today, anybody, any mom and pop shop can do good enough. Touch your button, you can do good enough. And so therefore, good enough isn't good enough. Like, you just cannot be good enough. If you're Coca-Cola or you're Heineken, you're Unilever, you're P&G, you cannot accept good enough because everybody's doing good enough. So how are you making sure that your quality of creative is so strong that it will work at every touch point? And so that crafting is really key.
Yeah, and I think we're in the business of driving growth, period. Whatever that growth is. Whether I'm on the stage,
Outcomes,
like, to your point of like everything coming together, whether IKEA, who's just presenting today, is talking about acquisition of more customers or selling more product, right?
Or drive faster.
Like all those goals have to be hit. That's what accountability in this business does today.
Do you want to say?
Yeah, I just tell my team all the time, it's it's easier than ever to be mediocre. So let's do better.
Got it. I'd love to pivot into my favorite topic, which is brand love, which is always very hard to measure. I call brand love loyalty beyond reason. And like certain people have it, like Apple has it, like they can come out with a shit phone and you're still going to buy that phone because it's loyalty beyond reason. That's what I tell my teams. That's your goal, is that even if you screw up as a brand, you have a few chances. So we talk a little bit about, like, in the digital, everybody rushed to the bottom of the funnel and just started to, like, oh, my CAC's $7 in search. And I'm like, but you had to create the demand at the top of the funnel for someone to search. So it's actually a $30 CAC. And I don't think most people understand, or still don't understand, like, they have separate brand and separate programmatic teams. And I find that you have to create brand love in order to actually capture that. So demand creation, demand collection. And I just want to know, like, do you run into that still? Because I think it's better than it used to be. But the creative at the top of the funnel is very different than the creative at the bottom. Because
Why?
well, it doesn't have to be, but it doesn't have to be. But I would say that if you know that you have 7 touch points of somebody and they're pretty far down that funnel, then you can give them a different message. If so I think data and really diving double clicks into your audience and understanding, or you may not have to give them a different message because they've resonated with that one. But then you have the problem also, what happened with all this programmatic stuff is impressions over actually outcomes. And so then you end up with just a ton of stuff at the bottom of the funnel and you think, I reached this many people, but just because you reach that many people doesn't mean shit. Like, do they want it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we say we have the ability to creatively activate across the places and spaces our consumers and clients are spending the most money, time, and attention. That space could be social. It could be a one-to-one platform, like creativity. It could be retail media. That is not limited. But with the right data and the right insight, we can redirect the team and give them a very specific, like, nothing better than a creative getting a tight brief of being like, here's where we're losing, and here's the landscape to reinvent right now where all the work is invisible. I mean,
Yeah, I think with AI and with the data, it helps us get closer to consumers, closer to culture, and ultimately closer to conversion, right? And this isn't necessarily talking about big C creative top of the funnel, but even that is like, we need to make sure that we are having a clear sense of brand and that expression. So scale is very much a marketer's term, right? The consumers, they don't care about scale. They care about what's right in front of them. So just because we can scale content doesn't mean that we can scale connection. So it's very important that we adhere to all the best practices, right? Like, as fast as we're moving, we need to make sure that we're moving in the right direction and being consistent across those, right? So, and being considerate of the intent of the message, the recipient of the message, the context of the message, whether that's, in a big global campaign or whether it's in a targeted digital ad.
Wait, well, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think feel like brands have, over the last sort of decade, as performance marketing has become so much more of a focus, have just been draining the equity that they created in the previous decades, and I think they are now starting to realize you have to top that funnel up. You need that brand love. It's really critical. I mean, you look at any of the FMCG, CPG businesses, what are they really struggling with is premium price. Like, nobody's going to buy, Dove shampoo just because it's a big, well-known brand anymore.
Or also cheaper, faster, better. Like, it's like you have to connect
just
with somebody.
To the bottom.
Yeah, race
to
the bottom.
So yeah.
So on brand love, I'd love to talk, because this is my favorite topic in the world. I'm at heart a creative. But, this is going to go back to AI in the sense that AI is not emotional. And, from the brand gap, a brand is not a logo. It's not a color. It's not a tagline. It's how somebody feels, a gut feeling about your brand. And with AI coming, I think there is, a huge role for the humans still in taking that data and still making decisions that are from the heart. Because and I want to know how you guys address that with your teams, because it's very simple for AI to say, you should do this. And I say that, but I also know that this is what's important to this is what makes somebody buy my product is that what they feel with my brand. And I'm really nervous with AI of losing that side of it. And I think that's where creatives and marketers can step in to realize what their role is with AI to make it better. But also, we know at least AI maybe can tell us what that brand love is, but how do we learn from that and make sure we keep the emotion in our storytelling?
I think it's a challenge for the industry because I think those of us, I'm a gray-haired old guy that's been around for a long number of
Oh, I
years.
dye my hair, so.
I stopped even doing that.
Well, you're a man. You can do it. We have ageism still in the female space.
That's fair. I wish I could, but
That's the next panel. Ageism in marketing.
But so I think one of the things that if you've got experience, you can take all that AI insight and you can pass apart the things that are actually interesting. Because there's always some stuff in there that's really interesting.
You're gonna dig. Yeah.
But obviously the challenge the industry has is if you're a junior person, you have access to that same amount of information. Are you capable? Have you been taught how to parse that apart, or do you just take it as read? And that's the danger. We have to educate the next generation of marketers and
That's a
advertising
great
creative
point.
people to actually be able to interpret this stuff. Otherwise, I mean, how many of us just get endless Claude written reports that are sent to us by other people in the business? They go, I've done that thing. Tick, I've done it. Here's the thing. Like, you haven't read this. You have no idea what's in this, and it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And where's the
Or they
actual
just put it in
input?
ChatGPT and that's
job's done.
Yeah, I mean, again, I keep bringing it back to the festival. So ABI is Creative Brand of the Year, right? And if you saw the speech yesterday, it was about sticking to the core values and the meaning of the brand. And I think as agencies, as partners, as everyone, as advisors for brands, it's like, don't walk away from that, right? You have got to stay core to your brand meaning of how that comes through. And I think it's a challenge today because brands are being attacked by startups, everyone all the time, but it's continuing to build the brand over time, inconsistent with being connected to culture, to channels, to community. And then last I would say is we always search for the truth. You can't, like, truth well told is part of our ethos, but I think AI often can hide the truth. So we still need that push and that talent to guide us through to be like, is that it? And that's why I go back to that collaboration and that attention of we don't settle. We push the craft, curious.
Yeah, but I'll jump to you in a second. I just want to throw in my the whole brand belief system because I think I challenge you with your brands to ask them what their brand belief is. Because then everybody's rowing around that same thing. So,
all the time.
like, Nike believes there's an athlete in all of us. Virgin believes there's a better way. So why wouldn't they make a
MasterCard
phone and a
believes
boat?
in Priceless.
Right? And so, like, at Hulu, we came up with, we believe TV should love you back. We're not a box on a wall. So I got 5 minutes left. So I just want to, and I want to open up for maybe 2 minutes of questions if possible for you guys. But I also want to ask, so that's the point I wanted to make about ask your brands what is their belief and make sure everybody knows what that is, kind of like the drive car faster. But I do want to ask, because I haven't gotten to the testing part of this, how do you guys pre and post test? And this is not necessarily an ad for Swayable, but we do pre-testing. But like, how important is the testing for the pre and the post to help you manage a media buy, and then iterate on that media buy and pivot in real time?
I don't buy media, but from a creative perspective, the technology helps us in many ways, right? It's a GPS for our navigation, right? It's helping us understand
Another point of direction,
which routes we can take, which considerations, like depending on the destination. In terms of pre-testing, I mean, in some ways, pre-production is the new post-production. We don't have to go through all the same steps and the many weeks of creating
so much money,
so much time just to see what an idea is going to look like once it's in camera, right? But we can now have the content created upfront, and before we're even testing it with synthetic audiences, we create digital proxies for our clients, right? It's grounded on the brand, it's grounded on the brief, it's grounded on the client history, all of the kinds of feedback that they typically give. So we can test our ideas before we're even presenting them. What are some flags, right? And it's not deciding for us, it's just giving us some signals that we can react to. And then when we have the ideas, we can create these synthetic audiences that we can test different ideas and see how they might resonate. And again, more signals. Ultimately, it's up to the human judgment to decide what moves forward, but it gives us a lot more data to work with.
Same here. Pre-flighting is done by agents that are core to the brand. Second, we create synthetic audiences, and that's super important also for categories like B2B stuff. And then third, it's the first slide of the creative presentation. And I'm telling you, Whether we're in market testing, to your
This
point.
works.
Yeah, it
Yes,
works.
I have
and
data
everyone
that
just
shows
like
it works.
comes down a little.
Right. And also you can figure out what doesn't work. And
And we
sometimes
talk about what doesn't
And
work.
sometimes creative that like your intuition, you might want to override something, but the data sometimes is your friend to say, you love this, but your audience won't.
Here's the thing: AI can more quickly expose a weak strategy than create a great one.
Love
Oh,
that.
I love that. Write that down, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, running a brand and design business, we don't get into creating communications and stuff that goes into media, but what we are able to do, because through AI, you can create an entire immersive world for a brand that previously, you would have not been able to do early on in a conceptual stage. And so then when you're testing that, it's so much richer. I mean, the type of feedback you can get is just infinitely better than it would have been if you're just trying to test a pack or something. So
No, I think we are lucky. I think we should look at it that way, that we have the tools. It's just how do we use the tools and educate. So I'm gonna this went really fast, by the way. I didn't get asked. I didn't even look at my cards. I have no idea what the questions were, but I do want to end with this. Okay, so we talked about educating the younger staff. Like I think I've been lucky enough to work on the brand side of the business, on the data side of the business, and so I have a lot of I'm still learning, but but some of these new kids are just coming in and don't really understand how to read it. So I'm going to rephrase the title, which is, a junior creative director, junior data scientist, and an AI agent that is just starting to learn, walk into a bar. They sit down at your table. What do you tell them how they should work together in a very crisp way?
I'm less tell, more do. So we are co-running against our teams at all times. So I think it's really hard to throw young people into all this technology without people who are like guiding them. So we have a combination of talent and mentoring and tools. And it starts at the top. The CCO is completely fluent in all the tools, as is the chief data and
transparency is key there.
And transparency. So they're seeing and doing, and we are coaching and leading the whole time. I think that's key to the difference right now. And there's not enough of that, right?
I agree.
It's very hard for juniors, right? We talked about hit squads because the most important role that the humans play in this blended technology model that I really believe in is judgments. We talked about that, right? And they might not have the seasoning to have the right amount of snap judgment. So to the juniors, I would say, be like water, right? You're all more hybrid than you ever could have been before, right? So you each have your roles, you each have your titles, but don't just stay in your lane. Be collaborative, be communicative, and be hands-on in all the ways to help each other out.
Right, and 1 + 1 = 11. I think people need to understand you all have the same goal, whatever that belief is, whatever that outcome is, and you should be held accountable. I feel a lot of times the KPIs are not held accountable, so they're like, well, I didn't make that product, or I didn't do whatever, and I'm like, no, you're part of the problem or the solution. And that actually is going to bring you a lot of joy and learning. So I don't know if you want to answer that last one.
yeah, I mean, I would say, sort of immerse yourself as a group in whatever the challenge is. And then ultimately less is more. Because I think we live in a world where everyone thinks more is more, and it isn't. And so trust your instinct, synthesize, and try to get to something where there's a simple, crisp articulation of what it is you're trying to do. Figure out what the question is that you're trying to ask, your answer, really spend the time to figure that out, and then make sure that you are clear on what the outcome is you're trying to achieve.
And then take the opportunity to see great work. I mean,
Yeah, be
the
inspired,
best
be
learning
inspired.
platform is in the basement of the Palais.
Yeah. Hey, go to the Palais, everyone. So data is your friend. I'll just say, but I still believe you need strategists, and you need that emotional connection that an AI agent doesn't have yet, I'll say. So I think those people that can lean into that and say, oh, I'm not going to lose my job because of AI. I'm going to keep my job because I know how to use AI. So I think I have to end here if anybody have any burning questions before Danny pulls me off stage.
Question about agency versus in-house. I feel like AI tools have accelerated the rate in which certain enterprises have decided that a couple of their internal marketing teams and a creator intern can then take a campaign, move it in-house because they have AI. Have you seen that? Do you agree, disagree? What are your general thoughts on that?
I would actually say that pendulum is swinging back the other direction. I've seen more in-house agencies being disbanded. I've got a couple of clients right now who are getting rid of their in-house agencies and looking to outsource it because through AI, an agency can do it more efficiently and are able to. They have the tools and the capacity to be able to do it. So I don't know. I think it's going back that direction personally.
I would say we're here to help. We do both. Like, there's no reason. We're in service of the brand. And there are some financial reasons where you want to do it. We want to be the agency partner for years and years. And really, maybe the agency can bring the tech. We can bring the data. We can bring platforms. While you want to bring other stuff, that's cool. So I think it goes back to that working together, and that's okay.
All of us have a keyboard. It doesn't make us all great copywriters. Anybody with Photoshop can design, doesn't mean they're good at design. This isn't being precious about the agency role, because some of them are going to believe that the in-house work is good enough. In some cases, it would be. But I would say we are actively, as an agency, creating tools that are ultimately going to be like to the replacement of things that we do. Not to a replacement of our own existence, but replacement of a function that we serve.
And give you more time to do what matters.
Yeah, and as strategic partners, like, here, we're going to give you something that replaces this specific function. We'll move on to more valuable things that we can do for you.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to get pulled off stage. So, Tina, Ronnie, and Daniel, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
the conversations. And if you, I don't know if you're sticking around, but just if you have any questions for these guys, they're geniuses.
Thank you.